Welcome to another episode of the Wholesale Elite Podcast. I am Isham Hipshire, and I'm joined by my main man, Mr. Tanner Santucci. What's up, dude?
What's going on, bro?
Oh man, living the dream, guys. Today is a good one. We got the GOAT in the building. So for any of you who are not watching this, I would definitely encourage you to jump over to YouTube and check it out. But we're joined today by a gentleman who I was introduced to when I just got started in my journey listening to podcasts. I heard about him on the Real Estate Disruptors podcast. And what fascinated me was this guy was crushing it, millions of dollars in deals. And he was able to do this all while playing Madden, doing his cold calls. And so that, of course, I locked in. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not interested in playing video games, but how can he do this? And so, guys, I want to welcome Mr. Luke Rotvold to the show. Luke, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, dude. Thanks for coming on. So I want to jump right in, man. There's your story's out there for sure. I was listening to some of your podcasts that you've done with other people last night. But dude, I'd like, cause we go mindset on our podcast. We don't go too much tactics just cause there's plenty of that stuff out there, but we really like to dive into the mindset of successful real estate entrepreneurs to kind of understand how they got to where they're at right now. And so, man, I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. So if we could, man, just start off with some origin, a little origin
for sure.
Where are you from? I know you're an Arizona guy, but just want to hear about how this guy that's this crazy entrepreneur, real estate mogul got started. Please fire away.
No, for sure. So born and raised Prescott, Arizona. So it's a small town in northern Arizona, a couple hours north of Phoenix. Grew up there, and then I actually moved to Minnesota when I was younger with my family. That's where they were both from, my mom and dad. Dad was born.
How old were you when you moved to Minnesota?
I was really young, like I don't so young that I don't remember. Like months. Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. And so lived there for a couple of years for a little while, and then moved back to Prescott. So it's funny because that's where a lot of people ask, like, where's all the Viking stuff come from? He's got, Viking boys, like Viking real estate, House of Viking, all that kind of stuff. And so obviously, when you're young and your parents just dress you in all your Vikings gear, they dress you. So all my baby pictures, everything I've got, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, all my Viking gears on all the time, twins, all that stuff. So that all kind of stuck with me, even though I've lived most of my life in Arizona.
So the Viking Bros comes from football. I thought it came from your last name.
Yeah, I mean that too. I'm Norwegian as well. Okay. So Norwegian. So I mean most people can't even pronounce my last name. They're like, wait, what is that? So
I have that problem too. So.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you get it. From that point, just moved back to Prescott. Kind of grew up most of my life up there up until 18. Moved to Phoenix for college. Met my wife there. Obviously a lot of my friends came from Prescott too and moved to Phoenix as well. So I've been in Phoenix now for, it's almost 14. How old am I? Yeah, 14 years. So I've been here. And then, when I first moved going to college, I was bartending at the Hyatt, bartending and serving, did that for 4 years while going to college. And then, ended up, getting into real estate. My wife had actually got into real estate before I did. She started with the team. I ended up, kind of jumping on that team after she had left. And that was kind of the start of it. I kind of got some good mentors in the sense of getting started right away. And from that point, kind of just ended up taking off.
What was your major in college?
It was actually hospitality.
Yeah. What was your goal? I'm always curious about people that go to college, but really,
So it's kind of funny. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys were, but how I was when I was younger, it was when I was going through college and I was bartending, I was I made good money. I think I made $60,000, something like that. I was working at a pool bar. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
But I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this forever.
Right.
Honestly, I'd always had a goal. I always just wanted to make six figures. I was always I don't even really, I honestly kind of was at a point where I was I don't even really care what I do. I just know I want to make good money. And then obviously once I found real estate, then everything was like, oh shit, like you can do a lot more than 6 figures.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was everything kind of shifted, and then I started I was always very entrepreneurial. Like I bought my first house when I was 21. Had my roommates, my roommates helped pay the mortgage, and so I mean, stuff like that. When I was in high school, I bought I worked all my whole junior senior year. So most people don't work through high school. So I saved all my money, and then I bought an super old Corvette. 1977 Stingray. Piece of shit, needed a ton of work. And then as I continued working, every dollar that I saved, I just put into that car. And so by the time I was pretty much done with my senior year, that car was fully restored. And it was I didn't do it myself. I did a lot of like the interior stuff, but like I would take it to mechanics, stuff like that, get it all set. But by the time it was all said and done, I was probably about $7,000 into it. And I ended up selling it once I got to college for $10,000. And that was the down payment for my house. So like small things like that I always kind of started at a younger age of like doing things like that when most people weren't doing that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I was gonna ask, do you still have that Stingray? Because those are
I wish I
commodities, man.
I wish I did, honestly, but no. I mean, it was really painful letting it go, but at the same time, like that's what allowed me to buy my first house. And then, that was I couldn't have bought it at a better time. That was in 2010, 2011. That was like the bottom of the bottom for the market. Like it was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, 2,100 square feet, 2-car garage with a pool, clean, not renovated, but clean. And I got it for $140 in Phoenix. And that's worth like $400 now.
Wow.
So,
do you still own that property?
No, I sold that house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, funny story. My roommate at the time burnt that house down.
Oh no!
Yeah, on accident. I was in California on vacation with my girlfriend, and I get a call from my buddy, and he's like, "Bro, I don't know how to tell you this. I burnt your house down." I'm like,
no.
"Huh? Well, you're joking, right?" And he's like, "No, man, I wish I was, but no, your house is no longer." Wow. And so, dude, I got a video of it and everything. I could actually show you the video on my phone. It's wild.
Like a total fire burn,
dude,
huh? Not just like in the
total
kitchen.
loss. So anyway, insurance obviously I had insurance on the house, and so they gave me what the house was worth at the time. The cool thing was that I gotta keep the lot though, and so I gotta sell the lot separately, which was really cool. So that was extra money that I wasn't really expecting. Took that, bought my new house in Tempe. Lived there for a couple of years. It was right by ASU, which was nice, and then sold that house, and now I live on my house that I live in now.
So you said you were always entrepreneurial, and your wife, it was kind of the beginnings to your real estate career.
For sure.
What do you think? Where did the entrepreneurial chops come from, or the desire to hit six figures? Were your parents business owners? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So my mom and dad. I mean, my mom was an agent when I was growing up, and then my dad built custom log homes in northern Arizona. So they did well. They didn't do like anything crazy. They made combined probably 150. I think there's a couple years they might have made a couple hundred. So I mean, they did well. We lived a comfortable life. And then the most painful thing for me was in 2008 when the market, obviously everyone knows what happened in 2008. Right. When the market got crushed, my parents lost everything. Oh, no. Like legit, like they lost absolutely everything. The cars, they lost, our house, and it was really difficult. It was a really difficult time seeing my parents have to go through that, having that such a comfortable life, going to absolutely, losing everything. I remember my mom worked at a bakery after that. My dad was like door knocking, like going door to door sales and stuff. So it was wild. It was so insane. It was so difficult to see happen. And so it was one of those moments for me where I was always like, okay, no matter what, I'm not going to let that happen. Like, I can't let that happen. And I talked to my dad. My dad was entrepreneurial. My dad was really smart, but he tells me the biggest mistake that he made, and he had so many opportunities to do this, was we always lived in a really nice house. We always lived in a big, nice house. And so he was like, I had so many opportunities to buy rental properties, to buy cheaper houses, and to just, because, if you start buying rental properties, you can always have extra properties where, and especially if they're lower dollar, you'll always have tenants. You're always going to have tenants. Where I remember when it came time for when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with our house, it was such a high payment that like trying to find a tenant for it was impossible. You know what I mean? Like for it to pencil, you had to find a tenant that was going to be willing to pay. I think it was like $4,500 a month. This is back in 2008. So $4,500 a month, take that for what it is 15 years later. That's probably like a $5,500, $6,000 payment now. And they couldn't find anyone. So they ended up losing it. And so that's what was really difficult. And he was like, if I have any advice for you, like if you were ever in a position to buy rental properties, buy them. And that's what the last 5 years, I don't have a lot of cash in hand. And like, we'll get into all that. Like we're fairly a cash poor business in the sense of like what we typically have on hand.
Sure.
But we got 40 rental properties. So, so I basically kind of did the things that like my dad had told me, like, hey, these are the mistakes I made. Don't make the same mistakes that I made.
Awesome. So now you have a partner in your business, Jake Lands.
Yep.
Jake Land, is it Landis?
Yep.
Landis. Okay. Sorry, Jake. Do you guys separate your buy hold business, or is everything done, under the Viking boys?
Yeah. So basically we've got, Jake and I have 30 of those 40. I think, Jake and I have like 32 of them together, 34, maybe even 34 of them together. And then I've got, my Airbnbs and my properties separate with my wife. He's got a couple of properties separate with his wife. And then, like I said, we're about to embark on this 32 unit, my wife and I. So,
nice.
The units are going to jump after that thing's completed.
Dude, I can't wait to get into that. So, okay. So let's back to you. So your wife gets into real estate.
Yeah.
You kind of get an eye for it. When does that turn to wholesaling real estate?
So it was actually right off the bat because I never got my license. So, you guys know Brent Daniels?
We do.
Yeah. So that was the team that I started with, was Brent. So Brent, it was him and his partner Dustin, and then it was me, Dustin, and Brent. We worked together for about a year, and then they ended up splitting. They had a disagreement on something. Then they ended up splitting, and when they split, that was when I kind of was like I was like the kid where my parents just divorced, and I'm like, okay, like what do you guys? Yeah, I'm like, well, so I ended up working with both of them, just like 50-50 partnership with each of them, with Brent and then with us, and then it was, I don't know, it was just kind of like, I felt like it was just a little awkward, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I still, we still did well. I did well with both of them, but it was like, okay, like if there's going to be a time to go start something on my own, like it's now, and so. So Jake was in my business partner. Jake was in real estate. He was doing sales for like a different type of a real estate team, more traditional. And we've been best friends since we were super young. We've known each other since we were like 6 years old, playing the same soccer team and stuff. And so we're like, hey, like I think the time is now, and so we ended up doing that. When started Viking Real Estate 2014. 2014.
So you were with Brent Daniels. When you say you, Dustin, and Brent were working, this was when Brent was out of the real estate game and in the wholesale game, right? Or
He was still an agent. He was still doing some traditional and whatnot. We were just pounding the phones, man. It was literally just like, it was actually funny. I did a super Saturday with Brent last Saturday. I went into his office and we just hopped on, and made calls for his coaching and stuff like that. But, so yeah, like we would literally do that. Like Brent and I would go to his house and we'd hop on the phone on a Saturday and for 4 or 5 hours, both of us just dialing away.
That's incredible. I mean, what an incredible environment to grow in. So this is over the last 5 years, you guys have,
Viking's really the last 7 years now for Viking.
Wow. Oh man, that's incredible. Okay. So, jumping into, I guess, productivity and little stuff like that. Are you a morning routine kind of guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What's your,
for sure. I don't like nothing crazy. But like, it's kind of one of those things where I definitely try to get like my if my ducks aren't in a row for the morning, then the whole day is just off and I just don't like it. So, I mean, I wake up, I don't wake up like crazy early or anything, but like, so our office, everyone gets here at 9:30 and we do like our team meeting at 9:30. I do like a reading for the team, stuff like that. But I mean, so I wake up usually around like 6:30, kind of start with like my kids, kind of spend a little time with them in the morning. And then I hit the gym, usually at about like, 7:45, 8. And then I just go from there into the office.
Got it.
But I mean, nothing crazy though, like nothing in the sense of like, I usually read at nighttime. So I read at nighttime, but I actually do have a planner that I'll usually kind of like fill it out and say, okay, these are like the top things that I need to get done every day. So, but that's pretty much it.
And Tanner, jump in at any time, man. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place.
Ask away.
But yeah, I'm super curious. Okay, so I know the morning routine. I'm gonna go back to real estate, but I was just curious to know if you had that.
No, for sure.
And okay, so so now you're in wholesaling. You've been working with Brent.
Mm-hmm.
What kept you in the game? Like I know you said you were after six figures and you didn't care how you made it.
Right? Yeah.
You're still in real estate. So what kept you?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like I am like I'm passionate about like design. So I know you'd ask like what I went into for college. I almost went into interior design. Which good thing I didn't, because my wife said that she definitely would have said I was gay, and that she's like, if you were in interior design, I feel like I 100% would have thought you're gay. And I was like, well, I wouldn't have been. So, but I almost went into interior design, and I also almost went into architecture, but architecture is a lot of math, and I'm not really great at that high level math. And so, so like those are two things that I always loved. And so, once we were in wholesaling, obviously we went the typical path that every wholesaler takes of like, okay, you start wholesaling, you get into flipping, from flipping, you get into, all that other stuff. And so, I mean, for me, it was like, once we really got into flipping, which again, you have to do well enough to get into flipping in wholesaling, and so that was the path that we took, where, we were starting to get our average wholesales were jumping. We were starting to get a lot more of them. And so once we started having enough money, we're like, God, we're leaving so much money on the table as we'd go back and revisit these properties we were selling to flippers. And so like, we're like, let's try to start flipping. And so once we started flipping, then that was like when my like creative mind just was like blown. Cause I was like, this is the stuff I love doing, And so once we started flipping, I started doing all the designs for our stuff. And that's what I'm like passionate about. That's what I love. And so once all that started, I was like, dude, this is great now. Cause now I'm doing what I love. We're making good money and it's fun. So
how long were you wholesaling before you did your first flip?
It's funny. My first flip I ever did was actually a novation. It was someone that I knew, and, he was selling his house and he knew that I wholesaled. And so I was like, man, like your house is super clean. It's in a good area. And I was like, hey, like, you've got, what's your best offer right now? And he told me what his best offer was. I think at the time it was like a 250 offer. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, I had never really thrown this out there. I'd never done, this is back in 2017. So people weren't even like, didn't even know what novations were. Right. Like, it was 5-6 years ago. And I was like, hey, would you ever like, so you're getting offers like 250, like what about if I give you like 255, like guaranteed, so you're gonna get $5,000 more than anyone else, but like, will you just leave everything in place like before you sell it? Like, you know what I mean? Like don't change any loans, like, we're gonna sell your house, but like, are you cool if I throw it on the market after I renovate it? And he's like, I don't care if you're guaranteeing me more. So I guaranteed him $5,000 more, and then I also gave him 10% of whatever was above that. I was like, I'll give you 10% above. So there's even more motivation for him to do it. So it came in, we threw in $25,000 into the house, made it really nice. And literally sold it for like full, like what a full retail property would go for renovated. And at that point, so that was a funny point in my career, because I had $30,000 to my name, maybe $32,000 to my name, something like that. And I told my wife, it wasn't my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, Sage. So I was like, hey, I want to take 30 of our 32,000 and I want to put this towards this flip. And she's like, hell no. Like, no, like, you kidding me? That's everything we've worked for the past however long. that wasn't in our house, right? That wasn't in our equity in our house.
Sure.
And I was like, you just gotta trust me. And she's like, okay, sounds good. So she trusts me. And so we did it. And so
that was it.
Yeah, so we did it.
That's
and
easy.
we flipped it. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I can be
More detailed.
I can talk her into stuff. And so literally we took the whole 30 out of 32 grand, put it into the property, crossed my fingers. We did it, listed it, and I literally turned 30 grand into 60 grand. So I doubled my money. Literally in 6 weeks, literally doubled my money in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And so then from that point she was like, okay, like I trust you, go do what you need to do, go do what you want to do.
Go do that again.
Yeah. So the guy that I did it with, he was stoked because he made an extra $5 grand, and he made like, I think we made like 35 on it. So I think I ended up giving him like $3 grand or $3,500 something like that extra. So he was stoked.
And how long have you been wholesaling?
That was kind of that was the first kind of flip we'd ever done. I probably wholesaling for 2 years at that point.
Okay.
So that was the first type of flip that we did. And then after that, kind of started doing a couple flips. Like I think we started like 2 or 3 our first year, and then, maybe like 5 the next year. And then from that point, it just went from, to 20 to, I think we did 40 flips in 2020. Wow. 2020, 2021. And then obviously last year we were on pace to have an insane year until things kind of fell off. That first quarter was wild. We did 1.2 mil in the first quarter.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were on pace. We were on pace to almost do 5 million had things not fallen apart. Yeah, we ended up finishing okay last year though.
So what's the team? I mean, in order to do that many flips, I mean, is that with a full in-house team? What's the team look like to do something at that magnitude?
So we had 1, 2, 3. We have 3 sales agents. We do cold calling, out of country. We've got multiple GCs that we use. So we're starting to kind of turn it a little bit. But I mean, we did have I'm trying to think 1, 2, 3, 4. We basically had like 4 or 5 GCs that we used to do all those flips. We obviously put certain ones on projects that are more intense. We have other crews that are kind of just for quicker, easier stuff like that. But we're kind of shifting a little bit to where we want to try to save as much money as possible in the sense of as we're building this out. So we're kind of more so going the route now of project managers. So project managers, and then building out a whole subs list. Just because we feel like, and again, there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of times, obviously, GCs, they make good money. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But a lot of times if they're going to have 20% built in on every property they're doing, every project they're doing, if you can save that 20%, just pay project managers and then also get the subs done, less expensive, it makes sense.
So you obviously still have, before the show, just to the audience, Luke had turned his camera around and you can kind of see his office and the sales floor and everything. So you still have a wholesale business, right? It's not like you threw your wholesale business to the side and went right into flipping.
No, yeah, not at all. So, I mean, we definitely, we try to flip as much as possible now. Obviously it's one of those things where it's like a double-edged sword, right? You guys get it. Cause it's like when you're flipping, you make more, but there's so much more to it, right? Sure. There's so much more risk, obviously, all that. And so where wholesaling is just, you're not going to make as much, but man, it's that quick money is so nice. And so what we do is we kind of look at every deal and we'll be like, okay, where are we currently at business wise, where it's like, do we need the quick cash now, or can we settle for another flip? You know what I mean? Do we have the crews in place for another flip? So that's kind of how we analyze, all of our deals, and then kind of look at the risk versus reward on a basis on every single deal.
Absolutely. Well, and you guys obviously have a team. You've got a team for your wholesaling operation, for your flipping and all that. How do you guys you and your partner handle having a good team culture? Yeah,
so I mean, that's what's great too about like Jake and myself is that we offset each other really well. So like I'm pretty outgoing. I like to, I'm perfectly fine with being like, like leading the kind of sales team and everything. And then Jake does a really good job of all the back end stuff that I'm really bad at. Putting systems into place and anything that's like anything that's like, internet related tech stuff. Like I can't do any of that either. Like I just can't, and I wouldn't be good at it. And so we have a good balance of him handling that stuff and then me handling like the sales team and like the floor and stuff like that.
Awesome. Are you guys familiar with Rocket Fuel and the whole VI thing? But
I've heard of. Oh yeah. Okay, I've gone through that before with some people before, but I'm not like super familiar with it though. But yeah,
gotcha.
But that's exactly yeah.
That's something that we had just recently kind of integrated in our business and Tanner and I's partnership, because I feel more of your partner's role, the operations guy, the behind the scenes tech guy, whereas Tanner does a great job in the visionary spot, and he's very ready, fire, aim, where I'm like, let's calm down. Let's
exactly. And that's exactly us. I'm like, come on, Jake, we got to flip this. We got to flip it. And he's like, well, we can't really flip this one right now. We're not in a position. I'm like, come on, man, we got to flip it. So, yeah, exactly. We're in the exact same boat. So that's funny.
How do you and your partner handle disputes? Like, say, you want to go crazy on the design, but he's like, man, that's going to cost us a lot. How do you guys handle those?
We've got a really, just because we've known each other for so long and because we've done so much together now, like we have a really, very similar mindset on stuff. And we nice. It's very rare that we'll just completely butt heads and be like, oh, you want to do this, I want to do that. We completely disagree. Right. So it's like, especially like you're saying, like when it's like, okay, well, how much do we put into this property? Stuff like that. It's like, we typically have a pretty good idea of like areas and what needs to go into a property for it to get the best bang for its buck. So we're on the same page on that kind of stuff. Like if we're doing a mobile, we don't need to go do really nice cabinets. We don't need to do a super nice backsplash. Right. Like, so we're on the same page with that kind of stuff. If we're doing a higher dollar home, like obviously we know, hey, we need to do maybe open shelves. Maybe we need to do, really nice backsplash tile. Maybe we need to do detail walls and stuff like that, because obviously, if your buyer is going to want that kind of stuff for yours to stand out versus other projects.
Right. Mm-hmm. Got it.
So we don't. Yeah. So like I said, we're typically on the same page with that.
Jumping into a little more tactics. So I heard on a podcast, I don't remember when it was, but I know you're telling your story of how, you guys were mostly doing, acquisitions, and you were letting Dispo hubs kind of handle that. Is it still the same way now, or have you guys brought in, Dispo and AC into your company, or how do you guys roll?
Yeah. I mean, and so again, it's we do still use the same Dispo companies. We've built really good relationships with them. They take care of us. We take care of them. But again, we flip a lot right now. So when you're flipping a lot, you don't really need a lot of Dispo. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's kind of the main thing is that, let's just say if we do 100 deals a year, we're probably, the plan at least is to flip 70 into wholesale 30. Yeah. And so, I mean, so we don't really, we've never built out a Dispo side on our team. And I mean, it kind of comes down to one of those things where, like I said, like the relationships that we have that are on the Dispo side, they're friends, like they've become really good friends of ours now, obviously. And, they don't typically do anything crazy where it's not like they're like ripping tens off of, our wholesales and stuff like that. Cause first of all, we're not going to leave enough room on there for that to happen. But I mean, it's usually like $2,000 or something, you know what I mean? So it's usually like them throwing 2 on it and then moving it for us. So, I mean, I get it. Like even if at 30, that's $60,000, but I mean, they'll provide us with free data. They'll give us, really good connections. They'll take us to Suns games. They take us to the Waste Management Open, the golf tournament, and stuff like that. So it's like
fun one.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, so we've got and again, they're good friends of ours. So it's like, we're typically okay with stuff like that. It's not too big of a, if we've got a wholesale where we're making $25,000 and they make $2,000, we're like, okay, cool, whatever.
Well, I mean, it sounds like things are going phenomenally well for you guys right now in your business. What's one of the biggest challenges that you and your partner are facing right now?
I mean, absolutely. Things were going good, like I said, up until about March, April of last year, right? Until everything kind of started shifting and changing. And then, I mean, we're in the same boat as everyone else where when that happened, we took a huge hit. You know what I mean? Like I said, we did 1.2 in the first quarter last year. We did 900 the remaining 3 quarters. So I mean, again, that's not, we're still okay with that because it was a complete drop off. But I mean, so it's like, we're definitely in that same boat of kind of working through things, try to figure out exactly what we need to do. We stopped a lot of our marketing just because, I mean, again, the marketing wasn't working. The leads that were coming in were dry. They weren't solid leads.
Right.
We got some buddies where, they're spending 40 grand a month on marketing. They did it 3-4 months in a row and they got nothing. And it's like, that's a tough pill to swallow of losing 150, 160 grand over 3-4 months for marketing. So we completely, not completely, but we dialed it back like 95%.
So what kind of marketing are you guys doing?
So right now we're just doing a lot of like JV model stuff. So like, when other wholesales, meeting with other wholesalers, meeting with agents, when wholesale deals come through, us running numbers on them immediately, trying to see what we can buy, what'll still make sense. So that's kind of, we obviously, we're still cold calling. So, I mean, we still have, cold calling is nice because it's always so inexpensive, right? Like you can do it for hours and days and months. And as long as your sales guys are pretty good, I mean, you can still pull deals from it. I mean, we pulled a deal from a lead follow-up from 2.5 years ago, like 3 weeks ago. And I mean, it was, it'll probably end up being a $70,000 deal.
So on that, if that took 2.5 years of follow-up, I mean, what was that follow-up process look like for people that don't understand on those longer follow-ups? I mean, was he calling once a month, twice a month?
It was me actually. So okay, I still call my own follow-ups and everything, my own leads. But yeah, no, I mean, so, obviously I've been cold calling for 8 years now and I do it regularly, consistently. And so I've got a ridiculous amount of leads that I've had built up over the years. So this was just a particular one where when I'm doing my regular follow-up, where I'll call people, depending on what I say on there, depending on my conversation with them, if it's every month, if it's every, 3 months, every 4 months, every 6 months, whatever it is. So I just kept following up with this guy and he always just said, yeah, I think we're getting closer, basically for 2.5 years. And then finally I had a missed call from him. And I was like, oh shit. Like, and you guys know, if you guys have been doing this for a while, if you have a missed call from a lead, you're like, okay, if they're reaching out to me, this is good.
Right.
Yeah. And so, so I had a missed call. So I called him back and I was like, hey, what's going on, Pascal? And he's like, oh, not much. The time has come. I think we're ready. And I was like, oh, sweet. Okay. So then I went out and saw the property. We talked numbers, he had this crazy number in mind, and we had originally talked numbers, but his numbers had gone up. I told him kind of where the market was at and everything. And, he had wanted 750 to start with. He worked down to 7. I told him I hit him with a low price anchor. I told him we'd be around like 480. Nice. And I was like, but we'd probably be willing to come up to 5 for you to make it happen. And long story short, we went back and forth of no's, yeses, no's, whatever. And then we ended up settling on 530.
Wow. That's a big jump.
Yeah.
The low anchoring it's huge. And I feel like that's a strategy that a lot of wholesalers, especially newer, they're kind of scared to do it. But it's a phenomenal strategy. Can you talk a little bit more into that? Because I feel like the fear is when they do set the low anchor, that the person's going to say no, and they won't even have time to negotiate or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. So people are scared because they feel like when you price anchor low, that they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to lose the deal, right? But the thing is, and this is what we explained to our guys, like, if you lose them off of that, then it was never a deal, right? You know what I mean? Like if they're not even willing to have that conversation, or if they are that triggered by the number that you threw out, then guess what? That was probably never going to be a deal. So that's kind of that conversation that we have. But yeah, I mean, no, you always hit low and then you work your way up, and it's all in the delivery. You have to set that expectations. You have to let people know, like, hey, you have to keep in mind, before you even throw that number out, this is a cash offer. We're paying your closing costs, your doc fees, your real, we're not charging any realtor fees. Like, this is literally an as-is offer straight into your pocket. There's not going to be any inspections. There's not going to be anything like that. Like, this is straight to your pocket. So it's like, we always set that expectation right off the bat, because then you can at least hope that they understand, like, okay, that makes sense. This is a net offer to me. So then they're already hoping, you're already hoping they're expecting a lower offer now. And then from that point, you also have to say, you also have to keep in mind, we have never seen the inside of this property. I have no idea what the condition is. For all I know, the roof is falling apart and there's holes in the floors, and so you have to kind of set that expectation. That's why I'm going to come in low. And then, hopefully they're going to give you the chance to be like, okay, well, come take a look at it and you can kind of see. And then once you get your foot in the door, then it's all sales,
Absolutely.
Then it's face to face and then you're giving yourself a shot.
You're in Arizona, Phoenix, more specifically, and you're surrounded by heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to? Like, who's the person that you're following, on IG, and you're listening to their podcast and whatnot?
I hate to say this, but I'm not really like that. I don't know why. I'm just not really that person.
Good.
I'm just not like, I love what we do. And I'm like, obviously I know there's like big dudes that are doing big things, but like how I always view it, everyone's got their own thing, right? Like everyone has their own kind of niche that they like to hit or whatever it ends up being. And so I just try to like keep my nose to the grindstone and just like focus on what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like I try not to like, I try to like stay in my own lane and not be like, oh, like what's this guy doing? Or what's this guy doing? What's this guy doing? Like, I don't, and obviously another thing is, Brent's obviously a good friend of mine and he's obviously, he's a well-known guy. He's a really well-known guy. And so I think it's another one of those things where because I'm super close with them, I don't really, it's not like I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just I just view them as we're equals in the sense of business and everything. So I don't view other people like, oh wow, like can't wait to get to what this guy's doing, stuff like that.
Sure.
And we've also been blessed to have really good mentors, like a Brent, and we had a couple other guys that are in our industry that no one really knows about. One sec.
You're good. I'm so curious to know who these people are.
Yeah, so we had a couple other mentors in our industry. Again, no one knows who they are. They're not on social media. They don't do anything, but these guys flip 120 houses a year. And they gave us, really good advice because when we used to wholesale, we used to sell them a bunch of our properties. And then just over time, they gave us, just bits and pieces of advice that really helped us along the way. And so, I mean, like, I've got so much respect for those dudes too, like where it's like, when you say like, again, no one knows who they are, but like, when I think of like my lifestyle of how I want it to be, it's actually these guys, the life that they're living and what they do. It's like aligns with what they're doing.
I love that. Dude, I honestly love that response. And I think that a lot of times when people hear these podcasts, they try and align themselves with this person that they quote unquote, look up to or aspire to and whatnot, instead of just trying to understand the way they think, the way they view things.
Right.
Like I love like Gary Vee. I followed Gary Vee for a few years.
For sure. Yeah.
The time, like he would always say, I don't read books. Like I don't follow anyone,
Yeah.
In the beginning, I thought that was so off-putting. Like, oh, who's this guy? He thinks he's so, cocky. He thinks he's hot shit.
Right.
He doesn't need to follow anyone. But over time, as I got older, I realized, no, he's just in his own lane. He's so self-aware that he doesn't need the distraction of knowing what other people are up to.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have the time to focus on that.
No, for sure. And again, I don't ever want it to come off that way where it's like, oh, like, I don't look up, like, no, obviously look up to people, but I mean, it's like at the same time, I try to view things as like, okay, how can we get better? How can I get better? What can we do to make our sales more? What can I do to be happier? You know what I mean? Like, I just try to focus more so on our team and how we can be better as Viking real estate,
I love that. Dude,
so let's talk then about your team. What are you guys doing, this year to essentially level up? Or let me take a step back. I mean, how does the training process with, say, one of your sales guys, I mean, how does that look? Do they have to go through a rigorous sales training, or do you just stick them on the phone and see how they do, or what?
Yeah, so I mean, we made a big change with our team, how it was, kind of put together and everything. I'm sure if you guys listened to the Bigger Pockets podcast, I talked about this on there, but like we had a point where we had like the team that we had was just, it was kind of falling apart. It wasn't like a great spot. A guy on our team was doing some really shady stuff like that. So, I mean, we wanted to, when we rebuilt our whole team out, we wanted to kind of make sure we did it the right way this time. And so we started asking different questions, like what we felt like were the right questions that we should be asking, rather than just saying, hey, anyone that wants to be in real estate, come on and try it out. You know what I mean? And we made that mistake far too many times. So, I mean, once we kind of started having more of a system of how we were going to go about hiring people, it got a lot better. We brought in better people that were aligning with us for what our values were, people that were aligning for what we were looking for, stuff like that. And that was huge. I mean, so that's kind of, once they came on, everyone that's on our team now, mean, we did some small questions, nothing crazy, but I mean, one of the main questions that we asked was like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? Do you see yourself, doing what we with the team in 5 years? And so the thing is, a lot of times we interviewed a lot of people and we'd have a lot of answers where they're like, oh, I want to be doing what you're doing in 5 years. And it's like, that's great. But at the same time, unfortunately, that's not really the answer you're looking for when you're building out a team, because, you have a lot of people that might just want to hear about real estate. They might want to try to learn the stuff that you're doing and then just run with it.
Right.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's, absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Like it's actually really smart if that's what you're trying to do. Right.
Right.
But as a business owner, that's not someone that you should be hiring.
Right.
Because that's someone that, you're going to spend a lot of time with. You're going to train them up. You're going to spend a lot of hours with them and years with them, possibly even. And then guess what? They're gone, and not to say they're going to be direct competition, but there's a really good chance that they will be. Where, like we want to hear, honestly, I'd love to, I'm trying to find a home. Like I want to find a place where I can be for years and years and years to come. And a lot of people, what you notice is what they want is they want growth in a company. You know what I mean? So if that means, starting out at the bottom, because everyone for the most part starts at the bottom with us, and then working your way up. And then, and we've had that. We've got a guy that's in my office right next to me right now. And I mean, he started that exact same way. He went from, basically beginning sales, and then he jumped into, a closer for us. And just recently, when we posted that we were going to start going with a project managers, he jumped in and said, hey, I'd love to learn both sides of the business, which we love. So now he's literally our main project manager that's running our projects now. Like, so, I mean, he's going to have such a well knowledge of everything that we do in our business. And so, it's awesome. It's really nice to know that he's so well versed with everything, and he's got no plans of going anywhere.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Because I remember you speaking on the Bigger Pockets when I originally listened to it a while ago. And that was one thing that stood out to me was your hiring process, in the sense of you're not looking for entrepreneurial minds. You're looking for W-2 minds.
I mean, honestly,
for that reason that you just discussed. And that's something, listening to that episode back then, really stuck with me. So I was like, damn, that's interesting if you really think about it.
For sure. And something that we do too, though, like obviously we want people to grow with us, like we said. And so, I mean, if, at the beginning of the year, we just got done with it, but we sit down and we write out our goals. Like, what are your goals for the year? We want to help you hit your goals. Right. And so like one of the things that we did was like, we still want you guys to have hopes and goals of owning rental properties, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like we 100% want that. Like we want financial freedom still, you know what I mean? We still want our team members to have financial freedom as well. We don't want them to be struggling. And so, we'll tell them like, listen, obviously you see what we do, you see what we bring to the table. Like we'll partner on deals, we'll partner on rental properties, on long-term holds, stuff like that. So, I mean, we had a guy on our team that we just partnered with on a triplex. And he had set a goal for 2022 last year. He had set a goal to get 3 units. He wanted 3 units under his belt, and we bought a triplex together, and it was a no-brainer deal. It was perfect. It was a perfect deal. And just like that, he's a partner on 3 doors now. So, I mean, he was able to kind of check that one off his list, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
If a new wholesaler who's maybe in their first year comes up to you, Luke, and they're like, Luke, I'm fairly new. I've done a couple deals.
Yeah.
What is some solid advice you can give me looking into the future? Real vague question, but just curious of what the advice would be from you.
I mean, it's always provide value. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's it's easy to say that, but at the same time, so many people come and they're looking for like handouts, and it's like, that's not how this works. Like, you know what I mean? I hate to say it, but I mean, we get a lot of people that reach out about joining our team. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like that's kind of cool. We'll never have to hire like a company ever to hire on our team. I mean, when I posted for the project management position, I had probably 25 people reach out, and these are like solid dudes. Like there's like 5 guys that I was like, I want every one of these guys on our team. I want every one of them, but we're just not in a position, especially with where the market's at right now, to make those jumps and to do that. But I mean, so it's like, there's so many people come in and they just think that they deserve stuff. Like, oh, I'm a new wholesaler, so like, can you like teach me shit? Like, I hate even when people say like, hey, can I just take you out to coffee and pick your brain? I hate that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why? Like, I'm sorry, but like, why? What do not, again, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, what do I owe you? Why do I need to go spend 2 hours with you, so you can pick my brain over coffee? Like, it's just,
No
I have a business.
there, yeah.
I have a business I have to run. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, that's why I tell Jake, if I did that every single time that people say that, like, you wouldn't get anything done during the day. You know what I mean? You really wouldn't. Like, you just be doing that all the time. And so, providing value is huge. I mean, say, we had a guy that used to work for us, great guy. He went on to become a pilot. And so he was the youngest commercial pilot in the US at history or something like that. So love the guy. But anyway, when he came to us, he reached out and he said, hey, can I work for you for 90 days for free? Absolutely. You don't pay me $1. You just tell me whatever the fuck you need me to do. I will do anything. Like, I'll literally do anything. We're like, awesome. Sounds good. So he came on, really outgoing dude. We put him on the phone, started closing deals, started doing some other stuff. And then one of the stipulations that he said, after 90 days, if you want to keep me, then you can offer me a job if you guys are open to that. So that's what we did. 90 days was up, and we're like, you're not going anywhere. Like, literally. And so yes, I mean, like something like that, like where it's, you're not asking for anything, you're just providing value, but you also want to learn, you know what I mean? And so, and he let us know, he's like, hey, this is something I really want to do. I'm really excited about it. But he also let us know, like, I am going to be a pilot too, though. Like, I know that's part of my plan, that I would like to do. And so, that was kind of one of those things where that was before we did that whole training of like, asking the right questions.
Sure.
Where we probably wouldn't have hired him, realistically, probably wouldn't have even done that last time. And that was actually a big part of it, because he was one of the last guys of that team that we had where it was falling apart, because the one guy was shady and did all that shit, and then he was gone. And then this was our like golden child. Like, and then, and then when he was like, hey, I got the opportunity to be the youngest commercial pilot, I'm out of here. We're like, no, no, like, what are we supposed to do? So he ended up leaving, and that was when Jake and I looked at each other like,
well, let's jump in, because I love hearing about these scenarios, because again, mindset, like, that's a shitty situation in business, but yet you guys have survived. What was in your brain? How did you guys crawl out of that position and see where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, we had our top 2 sales guys. I mean, it was me, Jake, my mom works for us. She's like one of our closers, and she's she's ruthless. She's awesome.
That's awesome.
And so, so she works remote. So she does, like, she's on Podio, and like anytime like the hot leads come through, then it goes to her and she'll close them. So she does great, but she's also, I love my mom, but she's also 63. So she's not trying to work full time. She's trying to do stuff here and there, whatever. She's got a couple of Airbnbs that she's, running and stuff. So, so these were our top 2 guys. One of them siphoning leads from us, closing them behind our backs. It's because we had way too much trust in him. He'd worked for us for a couple of years, and and then Jack was the other one. So so they both were gone, and then it was really just Jake and I, and we were sitting in our old office, and we're like, whoa, like our team just like disintegrated. Like, it happened within like 2 weeks of each other.
Wow.
And so we're like, okay, well, what do we want to do now? And so, yes, I mean, exactly like you said, like mindset, like you just have to, a lot of people would have probably been like, okay, I don't really know. This was the team we had that was bringing in our deals. Now we don't really know what to do. And so Jake and I just regrouped, and we're like, okay, we got to figure something out, So we shifted everything, completely switched it up. That was actually when we decided to sell our old office, because I just had bad vibes in there, because I just kept thinking of that one dude that was in there.
Yeah.
Because he was in there every morning when we go there, and he'd be like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm just like, so every time I went in that office after he did that and after he left, I was like, God, I just think of him. I just think of him at the front of the door, like being like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I need a complete change up. I need a complete change of scenery, everything. So I was like, hey, let's list the office for sale. So we listed that. That was when we ended up finding this place. So yes, I mean, we really just shifted, you know what I mean? Just completely shifted in completely different direction. And then once we did that, we were able to kind of be where we're at now.
And I take it while you had that team in, like, you guys didn't take your foot off the gas. It's not like, okay, we hired people, now, we're going to go on vacation. We're going to go work, on the business instead of, like, you guys were still making phone calls.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But then it was like, it just felt like such a step in the wrong direction. It felt like such a step backwards, because it was like, then it was back to the point of like, okay, we're back to just me making cold calls. And then also we're still doing our other stuff, but I'm like, I'm not going to just start answering all these. Like, I'm not going to start doing all of the inbound leads and all that. Like I'll get freaking crushed. And I got 3 kids now, and this is gonna be really, really tough to handle all that with the stuff that I do, So we, like I said, completely pivoted and completely redesigned the whole team. And we actually went off the book Traction. You guys ever read the book Traction?
Absolutely. Yeah. The same author of Rocket Fuel.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what it's from then. Yeah. So we completely went off of Traction and that was kind of how we decided to rebuild everything.
Oh, dude. I wish I'd have known about that earlier. I would have asked you a lot more Traction questions. That's kind of our game plan. We read we're reading Rocket Fuel, and Traction's what's next for us, so we can kind of implement, all the stuff that we're learning in Rocket Fuel.
For sure. Nice.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Hell yeah.
Well, okay. So this coming year, it's a new year. We're in January. What are you excited about this year?
Honestly, so we're in a spot right now where we're really just it's tough because of where the market is. So when we were actually talking about this when we were setting our goals for 2023, because it's we normally set our goals okay, buy this many rentals and stuff like that. And so it's going to be a strange year. It's going to be a strange year for the fact that we've never really done this before, but I'm actually really excited about it. So we're kind of considering this a year to just get completely stable, and we want to build up that bank account.
Yeah, slow down to speed up. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so obviously with where interest rates are and everything, it doesn't make a ton of sense either in my eyes to just go buy a bunch of rental properties. We did a lot of that the last 4 years. So yes, our goals actually this year are to really dial in our systems, next level, really build out the whole construction team. And then honestly, one of my big goals is just get all of the basically as debt free as possible in the sense of some of the properties and stuff like that. We take on, we'll take on partners where they'll give us some money where we end up saying, okay, we give them a preferred rate on every dollar that they give us. So we're just let's give some of that back. Let's get some of them their money back, and let's just get 100% flush. Let's go start building that cash, reserve up a ton. So that, when the market, if it does continue going down, or just once it kind of neutralizes where we really actually know what's going to happen, we're going to be in a really good position to just take off.
Awesome, dude.
So, and again, we've never had goals like that. We've never really had a year where it's let's just actually kind of take our foot off the gas in the sense of buying stuff to keep, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's always every year it's been, no, let's add 10 rentals. Let's add 10 rentals. Let's add 25 rentals. Let's do this, so that's always been the goal. And so it is going to be definitely strange, but we just feel if we can get everything completely dialed, then depending on whatever the market does, we're going to be able to just go crazy.
Absolutely, dude. That's awesome. I'm so looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to do this year. I know one of the things that I did want to ask you about that's happening this year is you guys are launching a community, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. So it's called House of Viking. So basically it's an online community that we wanted to start. There's a lot of obviously Facebook group, real estate communities and stuff like that. We wanted to do it completely off of Facebook because I just feel I'm in 5 of them and they all just bleed, they all bleed together. Yeah. And basically what it all is just people sending deals in there in states that I don't care. I don't give 2 shits about. I'm
sure.
I don't even know why I'm in these. I'm not interested in any of the stuff that's going on in there. So we wanted to do something completely different. So it's nationwide, but basically what we're doing is it's going to be, we have a lot of people that reach out saying hey, can you help me with this? What would you do in this situation? What would you do here? What would you recommend? So, instead of all those people just saying, can I pick your brain? We wanted to kind of bring everyone together to a place where it's hey, listen, any questions you might have, you can put them in House of Viking now, and we'll answer your questions right in here. So, we're going to do cold call coaching. We're going to talk about our Airbnbs, how to buy them, the process of going about them, design, wholesale, fix and flip, absolutely everything, creative finance, novation. So we're going to talk anything real estate, anything that anyone has any questions on with building out their wholesale team, building out their, and their anything along the lines of their real estate journey, we have a pretty good, knowledge of it, just for the fact that we've kind of gone so many different routes with things. And so, I mean, we have people in House of Viking now that, again, like, people where they're like, hey, I just want to buy my first Airbnb. Can you help me find what's going to be a good Airbnb and how to go about it? All the way to people that did, $3 million last year in wholesales, so I mean, like, we're building it's going to be like almost like a training community, but at the same time, it's going to be a mastermind. So we're bringing in a bunch of really, really good people, like, good net worth people too, where it's like, they're going to bring really good information to the table. So we're going to do a call every single week, and we're going to go over different topics. It's like last week we picked, a lot of people were interested in basically, if I was to start a wholesale team from square one, starting all over, how would you do it? And so we did that last week. That was about an hour and 45-minute call. But I mean, we gave all the things that we did, but then also all the things that we would have done differently, like, oh, we should have done this, where when we did this, and just like, what's the cheapest, easiest way to go about it, but at the same time, most effective, stuff like that. So it's actually in there is just like, how to build a lean wholesale team.
So if you join the community, is this information retroactive? Like, can you go back and see old stuff?
All the Zoom calls are going to be they're going to be in the database. So you're going to be able to click on whatever you're interested in. You know what I mean? So it'll be like, oh, say that you missed out on the Airbnb episode, or say you missed out on us bringing in a genius for creative finance, and he just breaks everything down for you. So you're going to be able to go into like the database, click on all that stuff. And again, it's just like it's building a really good community, a really cool community in there, where people are bouncing ideas off each other. Like, and again, these are people, we're talking, people that are doing big numbers, that are bouncing ideas off each other. So it's like, it's kind of cool to be able to go in there and me say, hey, I got this, I don't know a ton about creative, so I can go in there and say, hey, we brought a guy in that signed up, that's in there. And I could say, hey, I don't know how to underwrite this thing. Like, can you tell me how to do this creative deal? Cause I'm not super versed in it. And he'll be like, oh, absolutely. Boom, 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 boom. And he'll give you all the answers to it. And he'll be like, oh, damn, like, that's all I had to do to work this deal out. So it's really cool. So it's kind of, like I said, like a mastermind, but then also going to be like a sense of training as well. So that just got launched. Let's see, that got launched a month ago. So we did like basically a 5 or maybe like 5 weeks ago. So we have 1 week left. So we're doing like a founders program, like a founder special for basically anyone that comes in January. So they have up until the 31st is going to be at a really discounted rate. And like, the other thing is we wanted to make it super affordable, because like, there's also a lot of people out there where, they want to be in a mastermind group, but a lot of times like high level mastermind groups,
they're pricey.
You guys know, they're like 20, 30 G's, you know what I mean? And it's like, there's a lot of people that are out there that they don't have that kind of money, but they would love to be able to be in on those conversations. And so we try to find something that's going to be like super affordable. So we're actually doing $97 a month to be in this mastermind group. And again, like, you're talking about being in there with some pretty big hitters at, under, I think the special is also like $1,000. I think it's like $997 for the year if you do the one time. And then after that, it's going to go to like the regular all-time payment, which will always be, which is going to go up to $197 a month. But if you sign up in the next, by January 31st, it'll be that 97 for life.
Dude, that's killer. Wow. Is there a way to, and I hate to ask this, but I know, one of the reasons why a lot of masterminds keep their prices high is to weed out, the people that are getting started, or the really kind of low level questions.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing anything to kind of gatekeep that traffic, or is there an area where, those questions can be answered and someone else, or does everything get mixed in, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it's going to be a combo. So, I mean, it's basically like I said, if anyone has any questions, they can ask the questions, and anyone, they can direct it and chat with these people that are in the group. So they'll be able to ask, whoever it's going to be directed towards, right? If you have a creative question, you could go ahead and ask Luciano, stuff like that. But then also, we're just picking a topic every week. So like I said, that was last week's topic. This upcoming week, today's topic is we're like comping. So we're doing like, diving fully into like, learning how to do the best route of comping, of how we do it, how to do it virtually, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go that route for that. But again, so I mean, like, if anyone has any questions, they can ask there, but then, there's going to be just one general topic that's going to be hit for the week.
I see. Do you guys have anyone that's a land specialist or
we
land
sure
man?
do. We absolutely do. Yeah. And this guy crushes it. Yeah.
Is his name start with an A?
Yeah, it sure does.
Awesome. All right. Well, how can people find out about House of Viking?
So you can just go to houseofviking.com. Houseofviking.com. You can just sign up right there. Or if you have any questions about anything, just reach out to me. You can hop on my Instagram, send me a DM, and I'll get right back to you on it.
Dude, that's
very
awesome.
cool.
Heck yeah. We just felt like there was nothing out there like it. You know what I mean? There's nothing out there that is basically a mastermind, but that normal people can afford. You know what I mean?
Right.
For sure. For
So-
sure.
They get expensive.
They do, absolutely.
I love that it's all Facebook, but you're not having to travel somewhere to go to the mastermind. It's totally exclusive, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home. That's brilliant, bro.
Yeah, and it's all a Zoom call. So I mean, you can see everyone in the group. You can talk. You can ask questions. So it's gonna be really cool.
I can't wait to look into that. One last question for you, brother, before we let you go. And thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
Just a kind of random question, but I kind of asked it earlier, but I want to get a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
What's a word of inspiration you have for new wholesalers?
I mean, honestly, it's again, this is pretty basic, but you just have to get in. You have to get your finger, if you got to get your hands dirty. I mean, it's like there's so many people I think that have analysis paralysis where they're like, they get into it and there's so many different routes to go. There's so many shiny objects. There's novations. There's creative. There's this. There's so many different things to catch your attention. And so many people just I think they just try to, get as much information as possible on everything before they start. And it's like, dude, you just got to get started. You got to jump in and you just have to actually make the calls, or you actually have to to go the route, start talking to people in the sense of, you're not going to ever learn anything if you're not doing that. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest problem with so many people is when you're just trying to gather all this information, you completely, paralyze yourself.
Yep.
And it's like, you're never going to get anything done if you're just doing that. And so, I mean, that was my big thing that I feel like really helped me in the sense of get to where we've gotten. But I mean, dude, I just hopped on and I cold called for 6 hours a day. So, I mean, when the average person was out there and they were making 10 to 15 contacts a day, I was making 120 every day. So it's like, I'm making 10 times the calls that you are. I'm talking to 10 times the people that you are on a daily basis. You don't think I'm going to get a lot fucking better than you are in a short time frame. It's going to happen.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, is literally all this business comes down to is talking to people. So it blows my mind when I talk to newer wholesalers and they say, they just haven't talked to too many people. What do I need to do? I haven't got a deal. It's been 6 months. It's like, how many people are you talking to? Literally daily.
Exactly.
Like 5. And I'm like, that's why.
Well, I mean, how are you going to,
people just understood that's all it takes. And people in real estate, you literally can't fail in this business if you talk to people.
Yeah, no.
And you're not going to be friends with everyone. There's certain people you're just not going to vibe with in this industry. It's just how it is. No. And so, but that's all it comes down to. So like you said, if you're listening to the video and you're a new wholesaler, do what Luke did. Suck it up and just go talk to as many people as possible daily. And I promise you success will follow, because that's all it comes down to.
Absolutely. Sure. And repetition, you're going to get better. You know what I mean? If you, like you said, if you're making 5 calls a day, well, what makes you think you're going to get better? Right. You're not. You're going to make the same mistake over and over and over and over again, because you're not getting the reps. You're not getting the reps in. You're not having enough conversations. And so, I mean, obviously, again, when you start having 5 times, 10 times as many as other people, you're going to start learning your mistakes really quickly. You know what I mean? So if it takes somebody 2 weeks to have as many conversations and to start having some of those, those no's and the reasons for the no's of why people are saying they're not interested, versus me who can do it in a day. And then, in 1 day or 2 days, and I'm like, oh, I just realized what I'm saying that I need to stop saying, because it's pushing people away. Yep. So it's like, you make those small changes. And I mean, obviously you're only going to get better and better and better. I actually was talking about it yesterday. It's kind of, I'm sure you guys have heard the whole thing about Kobe Bryant, where did you guys watch the
documentary?
The Team USA documentary one though?
Oh, I haven't seen that one though.
I haven't seen that one.
Okay. So that one's crazy. So I actually told the team about this yesterday, but there was a time where Team USA had lost. And so they brought in Kobe, who's the coach for Duke?
Coach
K. Yeah.
Yep.
So Coach K. So he brought in Kobe because he's like, I want to like really show these guys like what they need to be doing. And so they brought in Kobe. And so it was the first day of practice. So Chris Bosh for the Heat, they had just won the championship the year before. And so he comes out there and he's like, hey, like, this is in the interview. He's like, I'm going to set the tone. Like, I'm going to set the tone for Team USA. And he's like, I think practice was at I think he said it was at like 7:00. So 7 in the morning. So he's like, I'm going to set the tone. And he goes, I got up, ate, got all ready, and I get to the gym and I got there at 5:00. So I got there at 5:00 because I was going to beat everyone there and set the tone. He goes, I get there at 5:00. Kobe is drenched in sweat and he's leaving the gym, throws me his towel and says, get after it. And he's like, I just realized like this dude is a whole nother animal. Like, he thought he was setting the tone. Kobe had already been there for hours working out. And so it's like, again, it's like that same thing of like that repetition though, of like, this guy, why do you think he was the best? Like, because he put in the time. He put in the time that nobody else is willing to put in.
Yeah, that Mamba mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
My mentor used to tell me, he told me something that shook me. And I still to this day, I remember him saying it because it was one of those little, those aha moments like, wow, there's a saying that you've heard over and over again when someone corrects that and really speaks the truth into that. And he said, practice doesn't make perfect. He said, practice makes permanent.
Yeah.
He said perfect practice makes perfect. So make sure while you're practicing, you're in it. You're focused on learning. You're listening to yourself over again.
Oh, for sure.
You go back and listen to your calls. Perfect practice. So thanks for sharing.
No, exactly. Absolutely. I love it.
Man, well, that's awesome, dude. So Luke, thank you so much for your time, bro. How can people get in touch with you? I know we talked about House of Viking, but how can, outside of that, what's a good way for people to reach out to you?
Just Instagram's typically the best. Luke_RO_. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. And then also, we've got our YouTube page that's got some like calls that we used to do, call recording, stuff like that. So you can find us on the Viking Boys on YouTube.
Very cool. We're going to link all that up in the show notes. So guys, just swipe up or down or whatever and click on those links and you'll get access to my man, Luke Rotvold. Luke, thank you so much for being on the Wholesale Elite podcast, brother.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait. I can't wait for Tanner and I to go out to Arizona and shake your hand and meet some of the buds that we've had on here that are out there, dude. And we look forward to jumping into this House of Viking community because this sounds pretty badass.
Dude, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You guys will get a lot of value out of it for sure.
Awesome, cool. Brother. Well, guys, thanks again for listening in, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Take care. Peace.
Later.
What up, Elite fan? That's a wrap for today's episode. But look, if you got value out of the show today, do us a huge favor and give us a review or give us a like or subscribe. Do all the things to help us get the word out there. And look, we want to see you on the next show. So get out there and crush it, make it happen. Stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.